well, not really live, but recording. I appreciate you waiting for me to set up the cameras. For those that don't know, I have a portable system, and yeah, the hardest thing about that is the lighting, as Ernest now knows. But so, Ernest, thanks for joining me for this little talk story podcast and whatnot. Um, I guess, man, you were my second guest that I had. After Shulon, and so much has changed in that time period. It's quite astonishing, actually. Actually, since 2020, maybe like 8 months before COVID, you know, there's because COVID was in 2021, yeah. But um, it just seems like
2020.
was it 2020?
Yeah, remember 2019 is when we started hearing about it. I think it was in January
Yeah, that's right.
2020 when China built those 10 hospitals in 10 days or
And
something like
everybody's like,
that.
"What the fuck?" Yeah. So,
And then
wow,
March 20th, we went into a lockdown.
that's right. That's right. Because I was doing my master's degree at the
Right.
time. Yeah, and we were supposed to have in-class classes, but then they were like, "Oh, they'll all online." Yeah, wow, 2020.
It's already been over 2 years now since the first official
Yeah,
lockdown.
okay. See, I get confused now because 2020 and 2021, they just
Melded into
they
one.
blur, yeah. Because especially like during like the Trump election year was just so savage. Everyone online, talking shit and hating on each other. I didn't really go online so much anymore because I said this is too much. Like I don't want to read people complaining about you know Trump and whatnot all the time. But so 2020, COVID hits, life changes for everybody. How did your life change?
Well, it changed in many ways, especially with the Ohana, especially. So I'm very close with the three boys. Um, I didn't get to see them at that point. It was decided that we wouldn't see each other because they're younger and I'm older, and we didn't want to take a chance, especially with any underlying circumstances, health problems that I do have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is basically with my diabetes and all that. So that really made a big difference in not seeing them, and then me not being able to see my mom. That made a big difference. So I've technically not seen my mom in person in 2 years, in over 2 years now. So I haven't been to her birthday,
Is your
haven't been
family
to her
sad?
Thanksgiving.
They're probably so happy. They're like, "Ah, fuck,
But
thank God."
hopefully I'll be able to get to see them. I got that, I got that. I'll be able to see them coming up soon and shortly. But within that time, a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the way I've done things. I work from home now. So I used to work at an office, but I work from home. I like it and I hate it. It's a dual thing. I miss the people that we work with, the
Yeah.
camaraderie that you build in an office, which makes things happen faster. I think that when you're working together in the office, you have more time to associate and put plans together that affect your company. Whereas if you're working at home, it's a different story because now you got to set up Zooming and everything else. So that could be a hassle. The parts I do enjoy about not going into the office is the traffic.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
and as you can see behind me, I can see these buildings and all that. I can not only see these buildings, I can also see the freeway. And so as soon as the lockdown went down into effect, that freeway just went down to basically no vehicles.
Yeah, I remember
And you
that.
could see the difference in the air quality. You could see everything. So everything had changed.
Peaceful.
It was peaceful. The mindset of the people were peaceful. The only thing that did not change here in the Chinatown area, which was not confusing, but to be expected, was the houseless situation. The
Yeah.
houseless situation stayed the same or even got worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was where it is how they told people you needed to stay in. You couldn't associate with people. You had to stay away from people. You had to use your mask, 6 feet, and all this, or you're going to catch this deadly disease called COVID-19. And it's sad that a lot of people did pass away for it. But what was confusing to me, because as you know, I can see everything down there. So it was the same house as people back then that were in 2014 that were there when COVID hit, that are still out here today, this very
Surviving.
day. Yet they had not caught COVID, and they've survived it. And so
I
it's
could,
just it's
I'm convinced that if there was a nuclear bomb that went off in Hawaii, the homeless people would all still survive. It's just interesting. I guess you could say they're resilient in a way, but I think the other aspect is that they didn't have contact with people who might have had contact with COVID. Yeah.
right, and that might be the case. We just do not know. But what we do know is they survived and they were great. I mean, don't get me wrong. During COVID, did I stay strictly locked down? No, I had to get out of my house.
Nah.
I had to eat. I had to get food, and I know a lot of the houses out here, and I associate with them because I try to help them because I've been an activist in Chinatown downtown, and it wasn't about for me. It's not about shifting them to other communities or removing them from Chinatown and putting them to other communities. It's about how we, as a people, can help our houseless. Because the truth of the matter is, majority of our people are one paycheck from being houseless. So we have to come up with ideas and ways to defeat houselessness. And for that, we have to go to the root of the problem. Affordable housing. We have no affordable housing here in Hawaii. They say we have it, but when you look at it, it's not affordable.
Yeah, there's
It is
no.
not affordable. We have no affordable housing. People can never make it. And so we, as a state or even as a city and county, we need to look at what we're doing. And maybe what we need to do now is stop what we're doing and automatically reset everything we're doing.
Yeah.
Start fresh from the beginning, and let's bring some of the houseless people out here and advocates out on the streets into the talks because they know better what to do and how to help them
I
than we
just
do.
think I think other cities are so what Hawaii likes to do is mimic a lot of like California or New York with their policies and whatever. And we've done that with the homeless situation, where it was kind of like, oh, hey, you can't tell them they can't camp on the street. You can't tell them they can't be here. Or they have every right to be here. In reality, they don't. The Constitution awards certain rights. You have your certain privileges as an American, but there's nothing that says you can camp, urinate, defecate, have sex in front of somebody's private business, private residence, or on public property, period. You know, I can't drink openly in a state park, but you can camp. They're both illegal, you know. But now a lot of other cities have realized, like, okay, like San Francisco, the mayor came out and she was like, this bullshit has to stop. That's what she said. So they're going to get tougher on the homeless. They're doing I think even LA, they started doing like sweeps, like they're just getting rid of, they're like they do here, like taking all their trash, all their belongings, throwing it away, telling them they got to move, and taking a harsher stance. A lot of them are mentally ill, so I feel bad for those guys. A lot of them are addicts. Unfortunately for them, they're addicted to drugs, and uh, I've never been addicted to drugs, so I don't know the struggle, but kind of goes off what I posted on Facebook the other day. Like, we need long-term care facilities. We need to help because, yeah, like, there's people who are homeless because they can't afford rent and whatever. But when you look in Chinatown, downtown, Honolulu area into Waikiki, further down, even like moving in towards Hawaii Kai now, up in Waianae, a lot of they're not just up H, they're gone. Like, they're mentally gone. They're so blown from drugs that none of these people in Chinatown are the type that like just need a helping hand getting a room. A lot of them get a room and then they leave or so
And
like, I guess, sorry, so what I'm trying to say is, like, until we have more of a tough love approach, which people hate to hear until it's in their neighborhood, you have to have a tough love approach. You have to get these people off the streets. You have to get them into care, and then we can start transforming the society itself.
uh,
You can still do that and focus on affordable housing, but it seems like every conversation from politicians is affordable housing, and they'll brush over the mental illness, and it's like, wait, these.
well, and here's the problem. So when I look at houselessness, right, and those that are on the streets homeless, and they are really homeless, the problem is we're lumping everything into one bag. And we cannot do that because homelessness is not one issue. It is many different issues, just like you have many different arteries and blood vessels going to your one heart. It is many different issues. And so we must identify what these issues are. And you did hit it right on the spot. Tough love. As a parent, when you're raising your children, you should not identify your children as your friends.
Yeah.
You are the parent, they are the child. It is your responsibility to guide them and mold them so that they will be great citizens and
Yeah.
outstanding citizens. It's your job. Once they become 18 and once they become adults and they start moving forward, then you can transition into a friendship mode with your child. You're still the parent, but you enjoy that friendship mode. But you
Yeah.
at a time you have to do this. And this is exactly what we need to do. We need tough love. We should be compassionate in everything we do, but we have to be tough. A lot of these people that are in the streets, and I know them, majority of them, they will tell me they did get housing first.
Yeah.
They got housing first, but they messed it up because why? Because when they got into that housing, they didn't know what to do or how to manage their homes. That they have people in their homes partying every single night doing drugs.
Mhm.
Many of the people that are on the streets are mentally ill. They became this way because we as a society allowed it to happen because we did not realize what was going on, or we did realize what was going on, and we allowed it to keep on going instead of intervening.
Yeah.
And so at one point, we have to intervene. We need mental health facilities. We need drug addiction facilities. Many of the people, you ask them, why are they doing drugs? And they're going to tell you straight up, they do their drugs so they can stay up all night long. Because if they fall asleep, they're going to get killed, they're going to get mugged, and their things are going to get stolen from them. That
Yeah.
is one excuse. And when you look at the way they're thinking about it, they're correct.
I just wonder at what point government officials who seem to always fuck everything up, they sat down and they were like, hey, look, we should let these people just camp on the street. And someone's like, probably was like, hey, yeah, well, but they're urinating. And somebody was like, well, hey, we we should, we have to let them. We have to be compassionate, because if we let them do that, it will hopefully encourage them to not want to live that lifestyle and get help. But it's like, no, that doesn't work. If you're pissing on the street or you're shitting in front of a restaurant, you should get arrested. You should be charged. You shouldn't be out in 3 hours, because that's what pisses the cops off, right? Why are you going to arrest somebody and they're just out, and the prosecutors won't even prosecute? Like,
But
bunch of fucking idiots, man.
urinating on the streets, defecating on the streets, having sex in broad daylight in
Yeah.
front of working people who are trying to make a name. These are all crimes and should be prosecuted as a crime. Secondly, this is not health appropriate for any of us that live here.
No, hell no.
I mean, this is a health hazard to all of us.
Well, and look
You know-
what happened. Look what happened. We let homelessness go for so long. In 2013, when I was working at the state capitol for a representative, I had said, oh, how come there's nothing really being proposed to help the homelessness? Because I had started noticing a lot more homeless people laying around than I've ever seen before. And the representative I worked for was very blunt. She said, hey, she's like, it is something that should be focused on, but it's not a high priority issue because it's not a pretty issue to talk about. So they want to talk about other things, and just never got any light. And then anytime there's a bill that's like, hey, look, these people should have to be taken to treatment, if the police arrive, everyone shoots it down. They say, oh, civil rights and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, at a certain point, we have to say,
When
look,
does it stop?
Yeah.
When do we really start focusing on this? Bottom line is we should have been focusing on this yesterday.
yeah,
Homelessness
now.
is a big issue. And let's get this straight. For all of you out there that are listening to this, your politicians are telling you that majority of these people are coming from Hawaii. And there's a lot.
Oh,
But
yeah.
let me tell you straight. I work within the MedQuest, the Medicaid field. I am an activist here in downtown Chinatown. And let me tell you what, I go out every night and I've talked to many of these people, and they tell you straight up, no, they were given a one-way ticket here.
Oh, yeah.
They were told where to go and how to make it work. And they love it. And so a lot of the people that are in the streets And I've noticed that there's a lot of new people on the streets
Oh,
in
yeah.
Chinatown that shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
Because I know who belongs and who doesn't belong in this neighborhood. You know your neighbors, you know your neighborhood. And a lot of people that are living in Chinatown right now do not even belong here. And when I talk to them, many of them coming from Chicago, now many from San
Yeah.
Francisco, many are from New York.
Dude, I feel bad for like, especially elderly people who like they've lived here forever and they didn't move here while the homeless situation was happening. They've lived here and it just kind of happened. Like when you go over to like by where I work on King Street,
Yeah.
there's like tents tied to the building, the condo building across from my building, and it's just like ridiculous. So the cops will come, they'll break everything down and move across the street to my office building and tie to our fence that we have, and then vice versa, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And
But
this,
all the money we're spending, all the time and effort,
okay.
but there's nothing happening.
So I think we need to get one thing correct. It is not the responsibility of HPD to have to monitor and deal with the houses. We should have behavioral therapists out there doing the work. HPD is not about taking care of the homeless, moving them from one area to the other area.
Yeah.
Second of all, we need to understand putting these tents the way you said. And for those of you who've not checked out James's Facebook, you need to check it because he has his pictures, and the pictures will show the houses tents built, and they're right there on this sidewalk.
Yeah.
And what's right next to that sidewalk is the roadway. And what travels on that roadway right next to their tents is the buses. God forbid one of those buses got into crash and hit into one of those encampments.
Oh, then the families of those homeless,
they're going to be suing, and the city is going to be in trouble. So this is now another issue that where we can get sued. I mean, it has to be taken care of now.
It's weird because I wonder at what point in our history, like we just decided, I don't know, because when I was growing up, there was homeless, but there was not this many. So at what point did people just decide, fuck it, I don't care about my family member anymore, I'm tired of taking care of them, or the homeless person was addicted to drugs or whatever, like. And it's almost like when you see the rise of the opioid epidemic with big pharma, and then you see the rise of all the addicts and the homelessness. Like there has to be
a connection.
Correlation isn't always causation, but it's always like, I don't know, man. We have a huge drug problem, and all of these people in Chinatown are drug addicts.
Right.
So, and most of them probably didn't start off on heroin. They probably started on, some sort of painkiller, oxycodone, Oxycontin, and kind of got addicted to it. And I know people who've done that. They had surgery. They were given the Oxycontin, and then they became addicted.
And it's easy. I just I broke my leg about 3 months ago, almost 4 months ago, and I was prescribed.
Because you were skipping.
I was prescribed
around Chinatown.
Yeah. So I was prescribed the oxycodone. After a couple of weeks of it, I said, no, I cannot take this. So I will live with the pain instead of taking it. It just made me dopey. It made me look like I was schizophrenic all over the place. I didn't feel right. And so I'm going to let this heal naturally. I told the doctors, no, I cannot take this oxycodone. And I can see how someone would get addicted to the pain pills, oxycodone, which will lead them to go on the streets to get the other drugs. The other drugs on the streets are just basically the same thing as oxycodone is, except oxycodone is illegal and the drugs on the streets are not legal.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know. Like for me, I think maybe like the ADHD makes me not be addicted because I've had the pills. Like I've had oxycodone because I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and yeah, it felt nice and it was great. But after 4 days, I was like, okay, I got to do something else. Like I got to go. I got to do. And when you're on those muscle relaxers and painkillers, like you're just kind of like sinking into the couch, right? I said, oh no, I got to go do stuff. So hey, maybe ADHD helps prevent addiction.
Maybe it was a blessing to you.
I can't even focus on being addicted. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. But on a serious point, We in the city and county of Honolulu, in the state of Hawaii, we need to create a rehab system that will address mental illness and addiction. It must. Um, Once again, I'm going to use the U.S. vets as an example. When they pull their members, veterans, off of the streets, they offer them a place to stay. They put them 4 people to a room, and they put them in quads. And these quads has washing area, a washing area for them to wash their clothes, a main room for them to sit down, relax, and watch TV, relax with friends, microwave. They feed them 3 times a day and give them snacks a day. They help them get transported from U.S. vets to Tripler. They put them through programs. They put
Mm,
them to 2-year programs. Towards the ending of these programs, what they do is there's once this person is getting better, they help them find a job.
mhm.
Once they have a job, they take 30% of what the person makes from the job as rent, which at one point I know they were putting it away and giving it back to the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they used to do. But they may not be doing it that way. They may be keeping it, which is fair because everyone should be paying their rent. But during this whole process, they're also out there helping them find a place to transition to move into.
Yeah.
And they do that because there's a lot of people that live in this building, particularly that I live in, veterans who have gone through the program. Once they're in their own home, living in a community, living and working, now they have a counselor who comes to see them once a month to make sure, a case manager, to make sure that everything's okay. What do you need? Are you okay? Are you slipping? Do you need more help in the program? And they follow them through for 5 years. It's a process.
Yeah.
You cannot take a person off the street and throw them into a home and say,
Yeah. And
listen, this is going to work. It doesn't
that's
work that way.
that's that shit that killed me about that the guy who used to come to our neighborhood board when I was on the board and would always throw out these numbers of how many people that they got housing for and blah 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 blah. But he would skirt over the fact that yeah, they had the housing for 3 nights and then they left. They wandered back on the street.
Yes.
Like it just they because most people they just hear numbers and they're like, oh yeah, they're doing a great job, but they're not asking the underlying questions and peeling back the layers. Like, okay, you housed 90 people,
How many
how
is
many are still
successful?
there?
What is your successful rate? Because you're right. So there's, like I said, there's this young lady that apparently came and tried to get a hold of me the other days, and security says no, he's working. He's at work because, like I said, I work from home. When I work from home, nobody bothers me, and then no,
She's sleeping all day.
and
That's
so
why.
yeah, I'm not sleeping. I'm working. So, and the thing is, we helped her to get a place. She only stayed there for so long,
Mhm.
and her and her boyfriend they destroyed it. The place got destroyed. Drugs was involved, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
and because they didn't know how to help themselves and cope. Yes, listen. Let me tell you what. Everyone should have a place, and we should help people to get into a place. But this is what good shelters are for, and I'm saying good shelters,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because I don't want. I understand people have problems with certain shelters, which I will not say by name, but they do,
Mhm.
and I understand why they do. But we need places where people can feel safe. They should not feel like they're gonna get robbed or they're gonna get beaten up. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we need to have places to help our people because once you in a place, you do feel better about yourself.
Oh yeah.
But now the next question becomes, how do you help yourself? And if someone's been living a certain way for so long, they don't have the tools or mechanics to help themselves
Yeah.
to move forward. So therefore, you cannot throw somebody into housing first because now you're causing more of a worse situation because now they're going to get kicked out. They're going to lose their place. They're not going to want to try it again.
Yeah.
But the biggest point is that landlord of that building is going to say, you know, 2000 first? No, we tried and we tried to help.
Yeah.
They destroyed our place. Our neighbors are complaining. No, we don't want to deal with your city contracts anymore.
Well, see, and that's kind of the problem. America was always successful because people were raised, as you were saying earlier, about raising your kids to be respectful and whatnot. They were raised to want to work hard, or at least knowing they had to work hard to get things. And when you acquire things through working for it, you appreciate it.
Yes.
You could give anybody anything, and it's like if you spoil your kids. Yeah, you're just giving them everything. They just take full advantage. They don't care because they didn't really have to earn it,
They
right?
don't
There's no.
understand the value of the.
And when you take someone like one guy who I keep meaning to have on the podcast, he was homeless 8 years, and now he has a place down the street. I think at the Winston Holly.
Winston Holly.
Um, and he was excited. He's like, oh, it's the first time in 8 years because he's been on a list forever. And he's like, yeah. He moves in and he messages me. He's like, I can't stand this. I said, why? He's like, I'm used to the quiet of the forest because he lives in the forest in a nice tent setup. Like he looks like a survivalist, really, like uh, solar chargers and stuff. Yeah, fascinating. But he said, I said, well, why? I said, I says, I know it's kind of busy because of the traffic and whatever. He said the refrigerator is loud. I said, well, what do you mean? He said it just like buzzes all night. And he said, I can't sleep because it just drives me nuts. So I'm going to go back to the forest. And so he does. He goes to the apartment that he has um, just to hang out or watch on he has like a projector, projects on the wall TV. But then he'll leave and he'll go sleep back at his place in the forest, which I won't say where because I don't want them to.
No. Yeah,
But
it's not important.
But it's interesting because yeah, you get accustomed to that, and then yeah, when they just throw you into housing and you're just not used to it, or even if you have mental illness or you're addicted to drugs, and your neighbor's an older lady, a senior citizen, and her grandkids are over, and you're smoking crack in the hallway, like this does nothing for anybody.
No.
For anybody, and that's what kills me is politicians and government workers are just worried about numbers and how they can sell you those numbers as a good thing. But in reality, if they would just do a good thing, you don't have to tell me the numbers, bro, because I can see it.
You can see it.
I can see it. And that's one of the biggest issues, which I guess we could talk about it as to why you and we run for office repeatedly, because people always say, hey, if you're going to criticize, why don't you try to change it? You know, what are you doing to change it? Blah, 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 blah. And there's not too many people who could say, oh, yeah, I am trying to change it. I'm running for office. You should support me.
Right.
But then when you do tell that to people, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, I'll keep my eye out of it. But there's no real like support in a sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like you want to help and you want to change things for what you perceive is the better or a better route than what we're doing now. But the same people who will complain alongside with you won't be there with you to help you while you're trying to make the change, right? It's just
yeah. So a lot of it is lip service. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I got you. Don't worry, I got you. I'll be there. And in the end, there is no one there that's going to be there but you yourself. And
yeah,
the bottom line is, I think, and this is what I'm seeing figuratively, people are afraid of change. They're afraid
yeah.
of real change. They're afraid if, and this is funny, but they're afraid if real change happens and all these things are wiped out, then what do they have to complain about? You know,
It especially
people want
kills
to
me
complain.
because like even in those cities like New York City, San Francisco, LA, where there's like large homeless populations, Vegas even, like I just feel like people should want better than what they're getting and should demand more from those who are working for them, which are the elected officials. They work for the people. Somewhere along the line, we just decided that
It
politicians
flipped.
are above everybody. They're the
Right.
celebrities. They're the ruling class. We
Right.
have to appreciate everything they do. Oh, Joe Biden's allowed to fucking sound like an idiot, but we have to worship that because he's, you know, a Democrat,
Right.
or Trump is a fucking moron, but we have to appreciate that because he's a Republican. Like, no. I don't. I I want somebody who's going to do the job and represent me, the people, in a respectful manner. Yeah.
But I do know politicians out there that do serve and do work hard. And you and I both know
Mm.
some of these, and they're good people and they are trying, but unfortunately, they're the minority.
Yep.
So therefore, they need more people like you and I, and people that are on our same mindset to be in office to make that corrective change. And a corrective change has to happen because right now the situation is the politician doesn't serve the people.
Yeah.
It's the people that serve the politicians.
Mm.
They're serving their egos.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. I want somebody in there in office like me who I know what needs to be done, and I'm going to work on to find a solution. And I will work with others to find those solutions because I know it's not one person with a solution. It's going to take a team to
Oh
come
yeah.
together to find the solutions that's going to work for everybody. But unfortunately, our politicians today want to be the celebrities. They just want to
Yeah.
go out there and do your handshake, take the pictures, and that's it.
Go to the
They go
event,
to the events,
shake
and
hands,
oh,
kiss
I
babies.
see, and that's it. But they're not out there doing the real hard work
Yeah.
of doing the solutions. And when you look at any solutions that is being done, it's not the politicians that's doing it.
Yeah, it's the
It's the
grassroots.
grassroots people.
Well, it's even like, for me, COVID really shined a light on, specifically in Hawaii, of how horrible our leadership is here and their lack of planning, insight, or even a long term vision. And that goes for a large portion of the elected officials at every level because, some of the decisions that were being made by the governor, and he just has these dictatorial powers. He could just do whatever he wants. Like, no one was calling him out for it. For me, I'm like, no, no, no. If I'm paying your taxes and you're representing me, or if I'm paying taxes, you're representing me, and those taxes are paying for your paycheck, I expect you to stand up for your constituency. And for hardly any, I can't even think of one uh, elected official at the state level that spoke up and said, "Hey, Ige, Governor Ige, you can't, you can't do this anymore. We need to stop. Our small businesses are suffering, but all the other big box chains are okay. And the rules and regulations that you're putting out just
It
are,
wasn't
it
fair.
doesn't, like, why do you have to suspend the sunshine law, which means sharing documents with the public? Like, whoa, why? I
Yeah,
have every right to know what you're doing and why the decisions you're making are being made. But that just, it really ate me up inside to see the lack of fortitude from a lot of our elected officials. And then they had the opportunity to have a special session to get rid of the governor's emergency proclamation, and they just like, nah. And it's like, well, what? But yet they're going to go walk around on their campaign and they're going to say, oh, I support small business. I'm standing up for the working class. I want to help the elderly. I want to help the children.
yeah. But
But when
when
they go there in that building,
yeah,
they're not standing up and speaking. They're not, they might vote with reservations or something on bills, knowing that it's going to die in the committee because that's the deal that was made. It just, for me, I'm just like, look, I can't rely on you to do it. I want to do it myself. I want to do it
there's
myself.
too many backdoor deals going on in Hawaii, and I literally can see the Capitol from my place. So every morning I look down upon the Capitol, and I pray a core that a core will help guide them to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not being done right because everyone there is serving no one but themselves.
Yeah.
If the money is not going into their pockets,
Well,
it's
here,
not serving them. Come on, let's get real.
what really like pisses me off, that I think should piss everyone off, is while you and I were not allowed to go to the Capitol to show support or opposition to like legislation, lobbyists were there every day.
Uh,
And it's like, wait,
who has the money? Let's take it.
you,
Let's sit back and look. Who has
yeah.
the money?
And it kills me too, because even like, as a Democrat, I feel like we should all be supporting what we have complained about for decades, which is Citizens United, and shifting to like a publicly funded campaign to get the money out of
Right.
politics. But here we are, we're a blue state, and we still have money in politics
Yeah,
unnecessarily. It
yeah,
doesn't have to
yeah.
be.
We should go all the way back. Who was the last publicly? Who was the last president to be publicly funded? I
Oh,
think that was
I
Jimmy
don't know.
Carter. Jimmy Carter. That was the last of it, because Jimmy Carter could have never beaten Ford
Mm,
if he didn't have the money,
mhm.
because he didn't have the money and Ford had the money. But it was Jimmy Carter. We need to bring that back. Everyone should have equal spending, equal airtime, and all that. Let's start putting some real people in office, people that really have a passion for these islands, who want to make a change that's going to help people.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough road, but we can do this together as a team.
But
But
it's funny, but because people who like oppose publicly funding campaigns, so, I don't want my tax money going to that. It's like, okay, well, your tax money is going to special contracts to special donors of winning campaigns. So like, would you rather have your tax money go to everyone getting a fair shot, or your tax money going to these corrupt companies and politicians' pockets? Because that's exactly where it's going, and that's exactly why you see all the feds coming in and investigating like every department in Hawaii because it's so corrupt.
Yeah, and the feds are here, and they're here to stay.
Yeah, they
It's a
might.
domino effect. I don't think the feds will be leaving
They
anytime
should
soon.
build their own
I
housing
mean,
complex. They're going to
I
be
mean,
here for a while.
they're going to be here for a while. I mean, and you see it is happening. We need to clean it out. Let's get straight. That's if you're going to be elected to office, then you know what? Do the job. Work for the people, and remember that you took an oath to serve the people, not for the people to serve you. Make what you make.
Well, I
Take
mean,
home what you make,
look
and
look
give some back.
look at these guys. Look at the guys, the two elected officials that were brought up on bribery charges. Like you were taking $10,000 in poker chips, bro. You could spend possibly 20 years or more in prison. Like, is that really worth it to you? You sold out your state, you sold out your family, you sold out your friends, because while you were killing things, the greedy companies wanted passed, wanted killed, that would have benefited the people. You know, you just go ahead, you just kill it, and then you go back to your people, and you're like, oh, I fought for that, and just it wasn't going to pass, and it just like that's just so grimy to me, so shady. Like, bro, like you sold out your people, your friends, your family, your mom, your dad, your sister, your auntie for like poker chips, for a plane ticket to Vegas. Like
I,
you would have. I just don't.
I just things understanding life throughout life from the day you're born to the day that you pass on to your next life. Things change. Nothing stays the same. But in Hawaii, which was the most loving, most compassionate places I've ever been in my whole
Mhm.
existence, and it still is very much. We have lost a lot of that aloha. You don't see aloha anymore. We've lost a lot of it.
Do you know why? Because these politicians sold out Hawaii. They sold out what was the actual genuine aloha spirit, as people would hear, the loving, caring, compassionate side of the people. They sold it out for the commercialization of Hawaii and the Hawaiian culture. And they sold it out for, $10,000 in poker chips. Like,
Right, right. And so they went and they commercialized Hawaii, and now we, the people of Hawaii, from the Kanaka Maoli all the way down to all local people, Native Hawaiians, we're losing our lands, we're losing our aina, and we've been forced to move out. So I believe, and I don't know if it's true or not, I believe that the politicians back then worked with the networks to say, let's call Vegas the ninth island. For me, it's offensive. Vegas is not
yeah,
a
I
ninth
never
island.
understand why
It's
people
not
like
a
that.
ninth island. More people from Hawaii live in California than they live in Vegas. Let's get real about that. And a lot of people that do live in Vegas, they only move there because they have other families there and
Yeah.
they think they can survive. So we're pushing our local people out of Hawaii. And as we continue to keep on pushing our native local people out of Hawaii, and that doesn't matter what culture you are, whether you be native or just someone who was born locally here all your life and have family here, they're pushing us out. Why? So that they can bring in new people to Hawaii.
Yeah.
They're changing the demographics of our islands. And if we don't start listening and looking at this, Hawaii will never be Hawaii again. I mean, is it too late to save it? No.
I don't think it's too late. But like I was saying earlier, the people have to choose who they elect and hold them accountable and pay attention, which doesn't happen, is not going to happen. So you're not going to get quality elected officials
Who are
in
serious.
office who are going to fight and try to do the right thing. Like, because we have a very individualistic mindset in America. We're not a collective culture. Like, for a lot of people in America, it's, hey, long as it doesn't impact my property, I don't want to hear about it. But it's like, no, it's a community thing. We should all kind of
Yeah.
take care of one another, because if we don't, look what
Yeah,
happens.
and I actually heard this from a friend today. Well, the
You ain't got
war,
no friends.
the war out there. Yeah, I got plenty of friends. Look at
Oh
that.
God.
Look at you. You're an example of a friend. But anyway, but anyway, we're talking about the war, and they're like, "Well, it doesn't affect me, so we should not get involved in it."
Yeah.
But I'm trying to explain what's going on, and I understand how people feel. But for me, being born and raised in Hawaii and having generations here in Hawaii, I'm thinking and I'm saying, you know what? Something's wrong here. In Hawaii, Americans were raised with the mentality of me. And it's great to be independent, and everyone should be independent. But there comes certain times in your lives or certain periods where we must become a collective,
Yeah.
because that's the only way we're going to make it work. And people in Hawaii had those values back then. We don't have it no more because we've become
Well,
so Americanized that we have forgotten our Polynesian ways. We have forgotten our Eastern ways, the way we did things here in Polynesia. We were never so
yeah.
westernized as we are today.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes, when I bring up the fact that Americans are too individualistic, they kind of get offended, and then they're like, oh, no, people just need to work hard and whatever. But it's like, oh, actually, Americans have always been individualistic per their culture.
Right?
Irish stuck with the Irish. Germans stuck with the Germans. No one ever really like reached out and helped like one another in a sense. Like if you go to China, because they all are Chinese, and they are brought up with this collective community type mindset where, hey, uh, we're all in this together. Everything that I do is going to impact you, so we should take care of one another. But in America, we're like, oh, that person is mentally ill, urinating on themselves, masturbating in front of the preschool downtown. You know what? Not my problem.
Not
But
my,
you shouldn't be allowed to send them to the hospital to get them care that they need.
right, right,
And it's like, well, what?
yeah, yeah. So that I
Okay.
find to be really offsetting to me. You know, when I was growing up, we had the mentality. So I used to explain to people would always say that New York was the cosmopolitan city of the world because so many people lived there from
Hmm.
all cultures. Yes, a lot of people from all cultures live in New York. But you explained it just right. You had Little Italy, Chinatown, Little Odessa, the Irish town. They had their individual enclaves
Hmm.
in New York, and they stayed within themselves. But when you came to Hawaii back then, you had all of them together, whether they were German, Irish, Russian, no matter what the background was,
Yeah.
you could find them all on the same block. Not only could you find them all on the same block, you could find them intermingling and intermarriage with people. When I grew up, if someone was suffering or family needed help, the families got out there, they threw a big party, sat down, kind of capilla, however you want to say it, sat down. The parents would play music, and the children would run around while everybody's supporting the other families that
Mm.
need help, whether it be food, whatever. We were always there. Our doors were always open. And remind you, just so you know, when I said my doors was always open, our doors were literally open. And we grew up in a housing project in Kalihi at that, in Kalihi.
Yeah.
And no one feared for themselves and their lives. And we all had an open door policy. We're there to help each other. Not today. We have become so Americanized, and there's nothing wrong with certain parts aspect of the American way, but when you become so individualistic that you forget about your neighbor
Yeah.
and you don't care anymore, then something's wrong. We
Well,
lost.
and it's also
We're
messed up
lost.
when you're so individualistic and you feel you're so much more high mighty and intelligent than everyone else that you're telling people who live in, let's just say, Chinatown,
Right.
that they're wrong for wanting to do something to help, the mentally ill or the homeless, and that these people should just be left to their own accord. And it's like, wait, bro, you live on the other side of the island in a nice big house, nice grass yard, and you don't have these problems there, so you don't fully comprehend. And they always want to say, oh no, I've known homeless people. Okay, okay. That's like saying that's like when you're back on the East Coast and someone tells a white dude, "Oh, you're racist." Like, no, I have a black friend, bro. Like, no,
Right.
it doesn't mean anything, bro. Uh, it's it's interesting, but it's gonna come down to people who want elected officials specifically who are willing to fight and not just fight, but I mean like really push to make what would be considered radical changes, right? Because nobody likes change. So, um, because otherwise we're just going to keep getting the same thing from the same people, and then like locals will wonder why their kids never come to visit Hawaii because it'll be kind of like, well, your grandkids don't want to come because when they step off the plane, they're stepping in human waste. And there's, homeless people laying on the tarmac at the airport because apparently they should just be allowed to do that. Like, it's just, at some point, people should want better.
Yeah, and we should all want better. I mean, you used to live here in Chinatown. Obviously, you don't anymore. I still live here, and I play a big active part here in Chinatown. And it is that urination, that defecation, and that having the sex in front of
Yep,
everybody.
right
You
on the
want to you
sidewalk.
want to do your drugs, fine, but do it somewhere private, out of sight, out of mind, in a house somewhere else. But that urination, that defecation, and all of that outside being done outside makes it unhealthy for any of us to be living here.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we live in the middle of an ocean in one of the most beautiful places on earth, if not beautiful places on earth. I miss the smell of the flowers, of the plumeria, of the peacocky. Downtown Honolulu, Chinatown should smell beautiful. There's one place that I used to go, and they had their share of houseless situations, but every time I went there, I loved it. It was Washington, D.C.
mm,
Washington, D.C. was a clean city, and it smelled good.
mhm.
Come to Chinatown, downtown Honolulu, you want to run out of the place. And we need to change that. We need to re-beautify Chinatown and renew it because it is that jewel, hidden jewel on Oahu.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just kind of like it has to be a collective group of people who are in positions that want to make a change. For too long, we've just had people in power that, like I was saying earlier, they just want to throw you numbers
Right.
because these numbers sound good. These numbers show we're working. Those numbers ain't shit. I'm not an idiot,
No, no.
but you're talking to me like I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
and that makes me mad because if I was an employer and I could fire you for your ridiculousness, I would fire you.
Right, right. No, and
And but sorry, but I think that's how people should look at elected officials. They are your employee.
right.
You are their employer. If they're not doing the job, they should not continue to have that job.
I totally agree
That's
with I totally agree with you. That one statement is that you said that trying to make me look like an idiot.
yeah,
Um, but you're making the two wrong people. If you're gonna be talking to James Logue or Ernest Caravalho about their situation of houselessness, or Shulan, I should be Kwok about this situation of houselessness here in downtown Chinatown, we don't need to see the numbers because we know what the numbers are.
yeah.
We can look and tell you. We can tell you who belongs here, and we can tell you their names. We know these people. We know them by names. They know who we are too.
Well,
And we express this, and they refuse in the housing, and they'll tell you why. They're scared.
well,
They have no way to help themselves.
it's interesting too because especially in Hawaii, like you could tell a lot of these people are not from Hawaii
Yes.
because in Hawaii they still have that "I take care of you" mentality. Like there's people who just can't take care of someone in their family who's mentally ill and now they're on the streets and whatever. But for the most part, people here care and they take care of their family members. I always joke that uh, where I'm from Pittsburgh, right? Like as soon as I used to tell my mom, like soon as you're old, you're going to the old folks' home. Like you ain't gonna live at home with us. But of course, I'm joking. But in Hawaii, is different. Like it's not like an old folks' home is not even like they don't. No one even thinks about it unless you need like real care
Right.
that your family member can't provide for you. But uh, it it's just
It's culture. It's our
yeah,
culture.
it's just it's aggravating because a lot of these homeless people are not from here, and again politicians don't want to admit it, I testified at the Capitol for a representative who was introducing a bill that was dealing with homelessness that I liked, and then it just seems like it fell on deaf ears. With like,
It's a nasty, ugly situation when you bring up homeless. They don't want to talk about it.
yeah,
They don't want to address it. But we have to talk about it and we have to address it because I tell you what, those people that are on the streets, and you and I both, we know them. We know majority of them by names. They are actually very decent people.
yeah,
It's just about getting people cleaned up and getting them back in.
yeah.
But you cannot throw them into a housing first if they do not have the tools to help themselves to manage the apartment and get through everything else. There needs to be tools
Well,
associated
and
with it.
there should be long term permanent care, because a lot of these people cannot and will never be able to take care of themselves. But it doesn't mean that we as a society, we're rich as a nation. We're just letting fellow human beings, fellow citizens, just defecate on it, and they're mentally ill. Like
Yeah.
you could look at them, okay, that guy's got problems or that lady's got problems, but we're just like, oh yeah, just leave them out there to their own accord. They have that right. It's like, well, no, they don't, and no, we shouldn't leave
No,
them out there.
no.
Like,
At this point, we should be parents. When our elderly, our kupuna get older, yeah,
mm,
we're there for them. They may forget certain things in life, but we're there to guide them and make sure they're okay. We should be doing this out there with our mentally ill. A lot of our people that are mentally ill will never come back into a society to be productive people of society because they're too far gone. But that doesn't mean we leave them out there on the streets. So,
yeah,
are we more compassionate to allow them to be on the streets to defecate upon themselves, pick up the defecation and throw it at windows, or while they're urinating and having sex in public? Does that make us compassionate? No. So we got to think
apparently
about who is a compassionate person. I had several people from the mainland come upstairs, and my view. I can see everything down there. Yeah?
creeper,
And
creeper.
they were like, "Oh my God, what are you guys doing to help those houseless people there? They're just pissing and defecating all over the place." And I explained the situation, and they're like, "Well, who is the more compassionate person? The person is going to take them and be a strong person that's going to be a parent and get them into the mental health rehab situations,
Hmm.
or the person that's looking at them and doing nothing and laughing.
Yeah,
Think
or
about
looking
it.
at them and
Yeah,
saying, like, oh,
yeah,
that's their right, they
and
can
yeah,
do
that's
that.
right.
But
No, it is not our right to go on the street and pee and urinate. It is not our right to go on the streets and defecate.
so then why do you do it?
No, because I'm just following your lead. No,
Hey, I'm just
you
following
know.
what's allowed to be, like
But
it's
no, it's just. I mean, it's so you pulling a stranger over late at night because they just got out of the bar.
mhm,
They're drunk. We obviously know that, but they have to pee because there's no place for them to pee, and the bars won't let them back in because they're going to get fined because
yeah,
we have nowhere for anyone to pee. But they have to pee, so they're getting caught and they're getting pulled over by the cops because now they're peeing. So the cops are writing them out a ticket. But yet, when the houses is doing it, it's
mhm.
okay.
Well,
You cannot have the double standard.
it kind of goes into, I don't believe police should be revenue generators.
No, they
Like,
shouldn't.
you're gonna give me a jaywalking. I didn't get a jaywalking ticket, but I'm just saying you're gonna give me a jaywalking ticket because you look at me and you assume I have money and I could pay that ticket. But a homeless person who's walking right next to me jaywalking, you won't even bother because they're never going to pay, and it's going to be more paperwork than it's worth. Uh, and in my opinion, that goes to because police are revenue generators. Towards the end of the month, they have their quota, which is a true thing. You know, and so what do? You see H1 police all over H1 pulling people over. They're all responding to things all of a sudden because they have to certain quota, right? And to me, that's just gross. Like, bro, like if our focus isn't traffic on H1 until the end of the month because you want to get tickets, like that does nothing to prevent the accidents that happen the rest of the time on H1 where you're not patrolling and you're not going after speeders. Uh, it drives me
No,
nuts.
it drives me nuts. Our police are here to protect and serve the
Yeah,
people of the community. In the
they
same
shouldn't be
token,
expected
they
to have a
they
quota
shouldn't have the
or
quota, but
raise money.
they shouldn't be expected to deal with the houses and to rein the houses in. That's not their job. We
Well,
need
yeah,
behavioral health therapists out there to help the therapists come in because a lot of our police officers are not trained in behavioral health. social services,
Yeah.
which I think there needs to be a looking at the way things are done at HPD, and maybe police coming in should be taught in this aspect of behavioral health. Should those coming in to be police officers be required to have a college education? That's a good question.
In
But
most cities they are, but not
yeah,
here.
but not here. But a lot of our police officers that go through the training and finally make it in to be a police officer at HPD, they get recruited by the mainland
Yeah.
cities. Why? Because Hawaii is Honolulu is known to have one of the best training courses for policemen
But see,
and women.
and that's funny too, because again, politicians are like, well, no, that's not, maybe a few or whatever. No.
No.
I have friends who work in police departments in San Diego and LA, and they do actively
Recruit
come
here.
over and recruit, because why spend your states and counties money to send these people through an academy, which is a good academy,
Right.
when you could just be like, hey, we can pay you more than you'll make there.
Right. And they do.
And your dollar goes more on the mainland.
And
but again, it won't change, because no one wants to sit down and say, yeah, no, that's right. How can we address that?
So everything comes down to, and to me, is a root problem. Hawaii, when I was going to school, had a great education system. Hawaii, when it was a kingdom, over 90, I believe 99% of the people were able to read and write, not just in Hawaiian, but in several different languages. Hawaii had a great education system, and something happened. We lost that education system, and we no longer have a good education system.
Oh, yeah.
We look at our teachers and we look down on them as babysitters, and they're not. These teachers are the future. These teachers are the leaders of the free world. They educate the future of our nation, and yet we do not give them any of the respect they need to. No teacher should have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to survive in the state of Hawaii. No one.
I think it's crazy that teachers have to spend their own money for supplies for the classroom. What? And there's people who will say, oh no, teachers, they make enough and they get the summers off and blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I taught English in Brazil to people of different ages, and I'll tell you what, like that's a time consuming job, and I give teachers all the credit, because I used to give my teachers all kinds of shit. So they're there to educate kids, but in the meantime, they're babysitting, they're life coaching, they're doing, because these kids are in school for like 8 hours.
8 hours a day.
The parents
5 days
aren't
a week
raising them for that 8 hours.
No.
And you have a classroom of like 30 students, and you're making like $50,000 a year, but you're babysitting 30 students.
Yeah, so if you want to break that down to what a babysitter gets,
yeah,
I mean, that teacher would be a millionaire. But
should be.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you. We've for too long, we have been unjust to our teachers, and it's time that the people of Hawaii wake up and understand that education is important.
And
we need to
but
pay
here's
our
my
teachers.
complaint with that again. It goes to, we keep picking these same leaders who
that don't do nothing
during campaign season. They go in and they talk about, oh, I support the teacher. I'll fight for you. I'll fight for you. And then when they win and they get the endorsement and they win, well, they're nowhere to be found. And oh, I can't support that. But I can't do the pay raise thing because there's this and then so it's like, bro, like, in my opinion, you don't tell people you'll fight for them if you're not going to fight for them. Because like, it's just like, why? I mean, I would just be straight up with you, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to fight for that one. Sorry.
Yeah. So for me, the teachers, that's a profession.
Yeah.
Just like being a lawyer is a profession, or a paralegal. These are professions, and professional teachers should get it paid at a professional rate.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what anyone says, but we're paying our teachers are ridiculous. We cannot even retain our teachers. Our teachers are running away so fast. They don't want to be here in Hawaii.
Because think about it.
The education system goes down and down and down.
Think about it. You're a teacher. Yes, you're in Hawaii. There's always that trade-off, but it does not have to be people just accept, oh, that's the trade-off.
There should not be a
you
trade-off.
deserve better.
Yeah.
You have one life to live. You get to live it one time. You owe nobody anything except yourself to have a good quality life. You should appreciate what you have, and of course always want more, but you should appreciate this life and want better for it.
Right.
You don't have to settle. Well, it's Hawaii, that's a
No,
trade-off.
no, no.
No, it doesn't have to be.
And I'm
Like,
tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing,
yeah,
oh, well, that's the price you pay to live in paradise.
yeah.
Well, brother, guess what? I was born and raised here. So what you call paradise is not paradise to me. It's my home.
Yeah.
And I should not have to be shed on to live in my own home. I should not have to be looked down to live on my own. I'm a hard worker, and I've done a lot of good in my communities. I made a lot of mistakes, but guess what? I'm a human being.
But you see, it's going to come down to, because it's even like, and we both know, because we've run for office a few times, and when you go to these like union PAC meetings, the political action committee, where they determine if they're going to, endorse candidates or not, it's always an individualistic mindset. They're
Right.
not thinking about their members that live in those districts or their members as a whole. They're thinking about themselves and how do they feel about that specific candidate. Do they know someone that knows them? Are they related to them? And that's how they choose. But in the end, it should be about in my opinion, should be about the membership and the collective, because you're not doing your members any good when you keep endorsing candidates that aren't actually doing anything
Anything
for
for
those
you.
members.
No,
like, you're better off just not endorsing anyone.
Right.
Like, just
If that's the case, so is those PACs, as you said, because I'm very familiar with them, they should start thinking about who is better for them, not who does your bosses want. I'm sorry. That's what I'm
yeah.
doing.
Well, I mean, hey, man, and it's sad because that's the reality of it. Like, there's a lot of good people who've run for office and lost. They couldn't get endorsements, and really, if you can't get endorsements, it's hard to win.
Right.
And they just kind of gave up. But they had the desire, the passion, the ideas, and the drive to fight. But then they start realizing this system's fucked, and I'm not going to waste my time with it. I'm going to move on to something else.
But yeah, no. So after a while, it gets to the point of degrading. Why am I putting myself up there? Why am I doing this? I mean, hell, I live in Chinatown, and as an activist in Chinatown, you put yourself up for more than just ridiculous. You put your life on danger for a lot of things that are happening out here, and but no one cares. No one's there for you. And how long does a person, or should a person, continue to say, I'm going to continue to fight for my community, when that community or the people who know better are not helping to bring them in?
And that's kind of always what's disappointing too, about people that want change,
Right.
but again, they're just afraid to make the change. Like, when I ran for office, I was, of course, disappointed when I lost, because I was like, I have dedicated so much time and energy to issues that impacted not just our community, but other communities. But it was hard because if you can't win, there's nothing really you could do. Like, I only have so many hours after I work my regular job to dedicate to helping the community, as opposed to imagine. So people always said, oh, why do you want to run for office? I said, because I don't feel like anyone's fighting for my voice and the voice of those around me. And why not do what I do in my free time with the little bit of time that I have? Why not do that full time? Because imagine the impact that I could have if I could do it full time, and that was my focus. I had the tools and the people behind me to get things done.
But how do you pay your rent? How do you pay your food?
You can't pay your rent on volunteer activities.
You cannot. I work a full-time job. I belong to several different nonprofit groups, which I'm proud to be a part of. And I enjoy those groups because these groups all give into the different communities. And I love them all. So when I'm off of work, even the boys are telling me, and their kids are telling me, Papa, I don't see you enough. And that's true, because after I get off of work, and since I'm working at home, I just want to get off of the computer and leave that computer.
Yeah.
But I have to get back onto that computer because I'm doing my other jobs, nonprofit work, and helping to get the community better. I'm trying to do everything I can to bring things together. But, who appreciates that? No one. Maybe the people out in the streets that are having a hard time, they appreciate it. But do the people in office appreciate it? Do the voting public appreciate what you're doing? That's the question. They don't care because
That's the
they,
hard part too,
they
right?
want to see you on the streets 40 hours a week. Right? If you want to see me on the streets 40 hours a week working hard,
Yeah.
then you need to pay me what I'm worth 40 hours a week on
But
the
see,
streets. And that's going to happen.
that's always the unfortunate part too, is like for people who are extremely active in their communities and doing other things to benefit people, they don't get the press coverage, they don't get the media coverage. But that the elected official or government official who's already has the position, you know, they'll just show up to an event that somebody else organized,
Right.
who doesn't get any limelight.
Right.
They'll show up and they'll be interviewed for the news and they'll be in the newspaper. But the people who actually organize the thing, no light. And then so these people who don't really pay attention so much because they're busy working, they don't know who did what.
Right.
They just know that this elected official sent them a flyer. There's a picture of them doing something in the neighborhood.
Right.
Hey, looks good to
But
me.
it wasn't them. It is us. We are the grassroots. It is us that do this. We are
It's
the
the
ones that
people,
set this up. We as the people, and that's what we do. And you know what? I don't worry about that limelight. That's not what I'm in here for. I'm not in here to be on the news every single night. I'm not in here to have my face plastered. I'm in here to serve the people, to help my people, our people, so that they can have a better quality of life, to help our teachers to get better pay. Because, like I said, when I was going to school, my parents, and I grew up in the housing projects again, people, they took us shopping for our clothes, for our books, our school supplies, and everything. My mom worked her Okole off. That's right. My mom worked her Okole off so that I could leave Kalihi Kai and go to St. Anthony's of Kalihi, yeah, to get a
Yeah.
better education. And God props to my mom, you know. But she worked her Okole off for us. She didn't, because she was in the housing, raising us in the housing, did not mean that she didn't do nothing and sit around and drink all day long like
Yeah.
people do today.
Yeah.
No, she was out there working her butt Okole off for all of us. And love her to death. This is what we need to do. We need to bring back the sense of community, because people, it takes a community to raise a child.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't think at this juncture that is even possible, because the amount of people who've moved here and invested here,
Yes,
they don't have that
cultural
cultural like they don't even. So let's just say like foreign buyers of the properties here, like they don't care so much about what's going on in the community. They just, are they going to be able to rent this thing out a couple times a year to make all this money on their investment, and they don't care who they're renting to as long as they're paying.
Right.
So I think at this point, trying to bring the community together, just
that's the scary
not
part.
not unless you're in a place like Waianae.
Waimanalo,
Yeah.
Kahuku, and all
Those
that.
are still pretty
And,
tight
yeah,
communities.
and we need to make sure they stay that way, and we need to protect these communities from ever going. But you raise another issue that's important. Why should a foreign person be able to come to Hawaii and right off the bat buy land and everything out right on top? Hawaii needs to think and restructure the way we do things, and I think we need a residency law in Hawaii. One that touches this issue, because no one should be able to come into our homelands, our Aina, and buy everything up. Because you're right. So if you go down to Kaka'ako, you see all these nice, beautiful, tall buildings built for condos. And guess
Poorly built.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's put this poorly built. These will be underwater soon. Mark my words. But anyway, you take these places and you look, many of them at night are darkened.
Yeah.
Why? Because no one lives there. The people that bought these places are renting it out on certain occasions, making their money back.
Yeah.
And they don't care if it stays empty. So at the same time, now again, then we can move back to the affordable housing thing. Look at all these empty spaces that we could put people into.
Mm-hmm.
What it says is that we need to build, we need about 45 more thousand, or build 27 more thousand homes.
I'm not sure what the number is now, but it's going to increase every month.
It increases. And the way we do business, it takes construction to get into doing things. We're doing this wrong too. It shouldn't take a year to break ground and start building.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking the permission process is taking too long.
Look at that one senior housing project that what's his name? uh,
Dennis?
Dennis.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dennis.
for years they've
Oh,
been planning and developing, just waiting on the permits and things like that, like to get the process
but
just even breaking ground, like 3 years or
and they
something.
do a good job because
Yeah,
they barely make a dime off of this project. These are all just senior housing and affordable housing for people. And so the one that they had planned that was going to go right down here, Kikaliki Mao and all that with the
hmm,
hotel and the new buildings going, that's done. That's dead. That was approved by the neighborhood board 13, and we're all for it because it's going to bring affordable housing there. That's
yeah.
dead because the hotel, because of the height, and the hotel fought against it, and now it's dead.
And again, and to me, that just goes to show, like, you took these outside interests to heart more than you took the community's interests and needs to heart.
Right.
And but there's no repercussions, right?
No.
Okay, because let's face it, they're not going to lose their job.
No, of
They're
course not.
if they're an elected official, they're going to get reelected. If they're appointed to a position, they're going to keep that position until the governor or the mayor that appointed them is out of office. Uh, but it's so weird to me because I guess just touching on the corruption real quick, like how much money does somebody need? It's kind of like with the Amazon vote, the unionizing of that
That in New York,
in New York.
right there,
You know,
Amazon
I
said they're going
love
to
that.
fight
I
that.
love that story. I love that
I love
story
it, but Amazon said they're going to fight that. Let's see what happens.
because that dude was like, okay, you want to fire me? Okay, screw it.
Right.
I'm gonna get back at you the best way that I can,
And he did. He
and
organized.
he won, and that is a fight for the small guy because, and I think he had said something, or it was attributed to him. I don't know if he actually said it, but he said something along the lines of, "While you were in space, I was here organizing," which is basically saying like you had enough money to go to space, but you couldn't give us a pay increase. You couldn't give us a better work environment. Like we're the ones who built your
We're the
company
ones.
for with you.
So,
Like I get it. Like I don't mind Jeff Bezos being a billionaire,
no.
but at a certain point, when you start hearing people are pissing in bottles, people can't take breaks. They're being micromanaged to the second. I
Yeah,
have a problem with that
and I have a problem with
because
that too.
you're not a billionaire without those people,
Right. So,
and those people deserve more respect.
I think this is something I've been thinking for a long time.
You don't think?
Yeah, well, I think a lot. You should know this. I see you more than I see anybody else in my life. Kind of strange there, but
You don't
anyway,
think?
that's what I'm trying to say with this train of thought. I feel that the way things are going in America itself as a nation, we are witnessing the fall of the American empire. That America will totally looks different. I see that if these one percenters or billionaires don't understand, that's nothing wrong. You made it well. I have no problem with that, just as
Yeah.
you. But it's going to come a point that there's going to be a revolution again. I'm not saying a revolution of the states. I'm saying a revolution of the worker
Hmm.
against that multi-billionaire, and it's going to come if we continue on this
Well,
ride.
and that's why I've always liked the idea. A gentleman that I met at the Hare Krishna temple when I went just to visit.
I'm thinking of his name.
He started the Shoppers Party, or I think it was a Shoppers Party or something. It's a legit party in Hawaii, and he said his whole thing is the consumer has the ultimate power,
Yes.
and that power is the money that they spend on the products.
Right.
If you don't like, if you truly support Amazon workers, like that's your, as much as you post on Facebook, like that's your passion. Oh, I support the workers. I pray for them.
Then don't buy from Amazon.
Yeah, then don't buy from Amazon.
Bottom line.
Don't buy anything from Amazon.
That Amazon hurt from the top.
Because if you boycott Amazon, Amazon will change real quick.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because that's why companies change, because of societal pressure.
Right.
And but people, they'll let like Amazon post something about Black Lives Matter, and oh God, I'm gonna buy from Amazon. Right. Amazon don't give a fuck about Black Lives Matter, but people don't want to admit that They just want to jump on that train
Bandwagon.
and that bandwagon. But it's like, yo, like Amazon don't give a fuck. Dude's just trying to go to space again on your dime, which is okay. If he could do that, it's okay. But that person shouldn't have to piss in a water bottle.
No.
And that person should get a day off. And those people should make more money, because to do a very monotonous, repetitive job,
Yeah.
I mean,
We've been
it's
there.
low skill, but it's kind of like you still deserve a decent paycheck, because that doesn't happen without that
Okay.
person's job.
Everyone deserves a decent paycheck, and we got to understand in society, you're going to have those here, those that are here, then those that are here, and then those are here, and those are here.
Yeah.
You need all these. They're all part of a working mechanism which keeps our society going.
Yeah, like
And-
you have to.
No.
Like, I never like attacking the rich the way the left kind of does,
Right.
because if you don't allow for people to be wealthy, which is what the United States did, you don't get the United States, which means
Right.
you don't get your iPhone, you don't get your Facebook, you don't get none of that. You get what they had in like China before they started copying us. You can just turn the base, yeah? Like turn that the other way. Look at that. No, you can keep going. You could turn the pole and the base.
All right.
Look at that. Yeah. So, I forgot what I was talking about, but
China.
oh yeah, like they don't.
Let the wealthy be wealthy.
Yeah, they didn't start having those types of various wealthy people like Jack Ma and all that until they adopted capitalism.
And they have to.
They're a little bit better at it because they regulate it. They're like, hold on, you, why you got all that money? What are you doing? Like the Communist Party, controls the businesses there. But in America, we're just like, oh yeah, you want to make 100 times the amount of money that your lowest level worker makes? Like that's
And it's not
crazy
good.
to me.
No, it is crazy. It's not good. It's not fair. But that shows you the mentality of America as a whole, and that shows you the mentality of the top 1% who controls America. Their
Yeah.
bottom line saying is, we, you, me, everyone else, we are nothing but indentured servants. We're their servants. We're here to work for them, to make
Basically.
them money so they can do whatever they want whenever they want while they're living aboard the luxurious yachts.
Yep.
I mean, look at Putin's yacht. Oh my God. I saw that. I was like, okay. And they live in a communist country. No.
Yeah.
So the people,
The
should wake
leaders
up.
of the countries
Yeah,
are
they're
capitalists,
capitalists.
but they
Yeah, but
use
they're
communism
to
and
control the
socialism
people.
to control the people. It's smart.
That's sad, but the people are not seeing that. They don't
Yeah.
see that part. It's not because the people are ignorant or dumb, because they don't get to see that.
Well,
So
it's also because, I mean, imagine you are making less than $1 a day. You have a family to feed. You really don't have time to pay attention or rebel against an authoritarian or
No, you
whatever type government, because you don't have time, and you don't have the energy because you're busy trying to get money and raise your family and all that. And it's kind of like what has happened in America.
Right.
People didn't have the time or the energy to fight Amazon because they were trying to work because they needed that job to pay their bills. And then it took this one dude, I can't remember his name.
yeah, it was just on the news. I forgot who
But
it was.
it took this dude. He said, you know what? Screw it. Like, I got you.
Yeah.
And
And I give him kudos to what he did. I was watching the news the other days and I was laughing. I said, that's all it takes. But personally myself, I cannot take that one day off.
Mhm.
That one day is very important because I have bills to pay and things to pay. And unfortunately, I live in Hawaii, and somebody says, no matter what. So what? Like I think it was you. Yeah. So the eggs today, bought eggs was almost $8-9 for eggs.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. But when you think about what they're paying for it in the mainland, yes, they're paying a higher price than they normally pay, but the workers still making more money.
Yeah, the workers make
than
more money.
we are in Hawaii. Our counterparts make more money than we do.
Which is gross to me, and which is another thing where it's like, the people just keep accepting the fact that these companies can come over here and pay us below national average.
And it's not below; it's way below.
And so do our state government positions. Like the position that I'm in, In California, it's like $4,000 something like to start. I was like, wait, whoa, what? I was like, that's incredible. You know, it's the people have to want more,
Right.
and if they don't want, it's always throughout history, it's always been a small group of people who wanted more that fought to get more, and then everyone prospered from it.
Right.
And then, look what happens. Just kind of like everyone just gets complacent, basically. And, next thing you know, now you have this power elite class. Now you have these, the big tech industry who's controlling everything. And it's just like, what happened? Like, how is the world, the planet Earth, made up of billions of people? And of those, 7 billion people, you have a couple hundred who control
Everything.
everything. And the only way they get to control everything is because the rest of the 6 point whatever billion people are just too busy, don't have time to fight back. But at some point, people, might wake up and say, you know what?
At some point,
It's time to fight.
we have to wake up, and it's not about becoming a socialist country. It's not about becoming a communist country or a capitalist country. It's about the people waking up and seeing what's being done, because people all over the world. I mean, what's happening in the world affects Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we have to work out. And then on that train talk, I was just thinking about what you had said earlier, and I want to make a comment on it.
Uh-oh.
And you're so right. I see everybody in Hawaii, all these politicians saying, "Well, California did this, Minnesota did this, and so let's do what they're doing."
Yeah.
But Hawaii, you gotta wake up. What works on the continental United States does not work here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We are an island nation, and we should be proud of being that island nation. And what works out there is not going to work for us. We need to find our own creative ways of making things right. Food sustainability is a must. We must have food sustainability. So, because we have to have food sustainability, that means we can no longer go out this way, but we must go up, because that's what's going to happen if we want to save our farmlands. And we need to save our farmlands, and we need to help our small farmers, and we need to start purchasing food from Hawaii. It should be a law. Safeways and all these other companies should not be able to bring their eggs and their meats into Hawaii. We should buy from Hawaii first.
Tell me again, politicians. Every year, the coffee labeling bill dies because these companies claim they're making Kona coffee and their coffee's from Hawaii, but it's less than 10%.
Less than 10%.
So people are buying this coffee, think, "Oh, this is grown in Hawaii. This is great," but it's coming from California.
It's coming from California. It's coming from Thailand. It's coming from all over. But Hawaii.
But again, the politicians that sit in these committees are like, "Well, we should just allow them to continue doing that because of the jobs they create." And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. And one of the Big Island representatives still tries to fight for that bill because it should be labeled, only X amount grown in Hawaii.
It should. If you look at a lot of Kona coffee, and you'll see it, majority of it is less than 10%. It's not even Kona coffee. It's everything else but Kona coffee.
Yeah, and it's unfair. People got pissed off when Kim Kardashian named one of her products after a certain culture. I can't even remember it all, but people were pissed off, and she ended up having to change it. But yet it seems like, and I even talked to Senator Wakai about this when I had him on my podcast, it just seems like in Hawaii we're just selling everything to the highest, but not even the highest bidder, like the first dude who asks. First dude who's like, "Yo, I'll give you 10 grand in poker chips if you kill this bill." Like, "Oh yeah, I'll kill the shit out that bill for 10 grand in poker chips." Like, and again, it kills me because I grew up being bullied in school.
Yeah.
And I see politicians as bullies in a sense, not physically, but in another aspect where, they're bullying me by not standing up for me, with me, and the people of let's just say Hawaii itself. Right. Bring it to this level. Right. Like, you're bullying us because, you're acting like my friend, but then you're selling us out down the river.
Yeah. So you have people that always complain and they complain. Oh, this, and I understand you have legitimate complaints. The problem with your complaint is I don't see you out there in the streets doing something to do something about it. I don't see you doing something. And no, I'm not telling you to take time off of your job to do this. There's other ways of doing things to get your voice heard.
Yeah.
And by electing or not electing people to the proper offices, you are the failure of Hawaii. We
Yeah.
are the failure of
And
Hawaii.
there's really no excuse anymore. Like with social media and the internet, if you see people's names on a ballot that you're like, who is that?
Right.
You could Google them.
Yeah, Google.
Now, if you don't find anything about them or whatever, then it's like, okay, yeah, I understand.
They're missing. That's why people say about Facebook, oh, they take too much information, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? We live in a different age where everything is out there on the internet. So you know what? Run for office, do something, don't care. Everyone, you made mistakes, but I'm not going to hold you to a mistake you made 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You grow. If that was the case, then Yasser Arafat, Golda Meir, and all these people would have never been elected to their office because they were all terrorists at one point.
Well, listen, man, most of our presidents were scandalous,
right.
like
all of them,
Yeah.
And even if you read the Bible, they were murderers and all that, but they got elevated up and became saints and all that. So read history and understand in life, we don't hold things against people. You learn from your experiences. When you tell me that you've always succeeded in everything you've done, then I know you're a liar because you have to fail to be a success.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Well, it is. I do believe people do change. Sometimes it takes a radical moment in their life.
People who can change,
like,
will change.
Maybe Chris Rock stops being a comedian because he got smacked in the face. So now his life will change.
What happened then? Will Smith should have never gone up and hit him. If he wanted to sit down verbally and cost him, then he could have. But I understand. Chris Rock was told on many occasions for many years to leave this name out of his mouth, but he keeps on attacking them. And it's like he had a personal. It seemed like it was a personal.
Yeah, that's definitely seemed personal.
The Smith family, and Chris Rock has been doing this, and yet all these people are giving Chris Rock all this praise. I think everybody needs to think, what brought this up?
Well,
something that
that's where it comes down. Like the facts. There's no solid facts. So we could say Chris Rock knew or was told, but who knew? Who told him? Where's the article? Right. Is that author biased? Because look at the media nowadays. Everything's biased and trying to drive a narrative. I understand why Smith felt the need to do that in a sense, but there's still no excuse for that. But one thing that I started thinking about was, what were we just complaining about in Chinatown with the homeless people? One of the biggest causes of homelessness is mental illness.
Mental illness.
If you look at Will Smith's, for the past couple years, his interviews, and if you know anything about not the scandals, but like the things like his wife, like sleeping with other guys and rappers, and they have like an open relationship. And then when you hear about how his mom was treated by his father and how he swore he would never do that, I believe that moment was kind of like a snapping mental moment. Health.
It was a snapping moment.
And Chris Rock had the right response, but like the media just kind of fucking just keeps throwing Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. Let's talk like.
But because it sells. Because it sells.
Yeah.
It sells.
And it's like, I know he smacked him because he made the joke about Jada. Right. But why? Because people have made jokes about Jada, about Will for years, and he never went on stage and smacked
him. And then
them.
finally.
And something
snapped. But if you look at the history between Will Smith.
Well, he did smack Chris a reporter, Rock, but that reporter was a bitch.
Right. But if you look at the history of Chris Rock and Will Smith, there's been that bad history between them, and so
Well, see, I don't know much
So,
about that, but I still think like Will Smith is a professional, yeah, and
no,
he would know better than to
no,
do
no,
that.
and you're absolutely right. As a professional, there he should have never taken that walk, because
Yeah,
um, it ruined his evening. The best actor, all the awards given out that night, the
yeah,
biggest focus is on the best actor.
yeah,
It is the best actor's night,
and it's
and it took away from that. And Will Smith, being in that position, should have known better and held back. He should have made this more private.
yeah,
And but the question has been, what at that moment made him snap
yeah,
and change? And you're right, we don't know, but we have a problem with our media.
yeah.
They
They
just
just
want to sell, and so
yeah.
they're going to send this as far as they can
Well, it's funny to me
instead
that,
of helping the man.
but it's also funny to me like no, like in a lot of issues, like people pick a side. Not everybody, but the majority of people tend to just pick a side. They either support Will Smith
Oh,
and Chris
yeah,
Rock is an asshole, or they support Chris
Chris
Rock and
Rock.
Will Smith is an asshole. Joe Biden is the greatest president ever. Donald Trump is the greatest
Oh, wait a
president
minute. Where did you hear
ever.
Joe Biden was the greatest president ever?
But it's just like, well, he got the most votes ever. But in my opinion, like people don't take enough time to just sit back and just look at you don't have to support either side. You
No,
can understand that there's
both sides. You
some
can, yeah.
gray area, like when it comes to the Will Smith situation, like okay, yeah, he shouldn't have smacked him kind of, but
So,
did he know? I don't know. But then when you look at the media coverage of Will Smith's family for the past couple years, they're criticizing his kids and
but
criticizing
the,
his wife,
the,
criticizing him,
yes,
and everyone's making jokes about them. At a certain point, your brain just
you,
says,
you
"Fuck it."
and you're gonna snap. You're gonna
Yeah,
snap, and that's sad. And this now becomes a societal issue.
yeah,
We as society have allowed this to go on. We as society must remember, and as humans must remember, we do not need to know everything about that person's life. That's none of our business. In
yeah,
fact, it shouldn't be our business. All we need to know is that they're good persons and they're doing and taking care of their families. Nothing else should matter to us.
yeah,
We should concern ourselves with our lives and taking care of our communities and those around us. But instead, we want to know about every single person's life that's out there in the limelight. That's
yeah,
not fair.
yeah,
That's a lot of pressure on one
yeah,
person. And Will snapped. Okay. And it happened. But we don't know what brought it on and how it was brought on. But we do know that the media should have shut down at that moment and stopped. It happened, boom, stop it. Don't carry it on.
yeah.
But they know that we're all American society is so greedy and so hungry for this kind of
Well, now
drama
now maybe
that it's
people
like,
will want to watch the Oscars. Like nobody wants to watch the Oscars, bro. The Oscars had ratings in the past because we didn't have streaming media. We were bored. We didn't have shit else to do. But nowadays we have everything
everything,
to do. Like
everything.
nobody wants to. I don't. I just don't care about. I want people to get awards for the
Right.
good work because, like working as a background on the different TV shows, like I've come to appreciate
What they do
an actor
and what they do, yeah.
because it does take a lot of skill, a lot of time, a lot of effort. So I want them to get awards for doing outstanding jobs.
No.
Like the new Batman movie
Yeah.
should get all the awards,
I
in my
loved it. It
opinion.
was a great movie. Yeah.
But I don't want to watch it. I'm not gonna watch it. Like I'm glad you got an award.
Yeah.
But did you tune in when I got my Proud Lions award? Like, did you tune in when I got my certificate from the city council? Like, no, like you don't care, right? Because
Right.
it doesn't impact
It
you.
doesn't
Like,
impact it,
nobody cares about the Oscars, man.
But we as a society have to stop worrying and trying to find drama in other people's lives. Let people live their lives.
Bro, we
Let
love
them live
drama.
them. And that's a societal problem that needs to be addressed.
I think it's
It's
humans,
a,
man.
I
Like,
mean,
humans love
I,
gossip. They love drama. They want to notice someone else is doing worse than they are at that moment.
yeah, but it seems to have spiraled out of control. And when do we say enough is enough and then stop? And going back just to the simpler times. And will there ever be simpler times? I don't know. I was back to the days where we take care of our families, our ohana, where we take care of our communities, our puas, When are we going to start taking care of our people, our time? When are we going to start educating people? When are we going to start paying our people better money and wages for what they do? Which is a big problem here in Hawaii. What if we make it still 10-10? We don't go to 12 something till January? 10-10. Are you kidding me? In Hawaii?
Yeah.
No, no one can live off of 10-10.
And the same politicians who said that we support this and we support that, well, where are they at? Where are they? As the minimum wage increase bill gets diluted and
Right.
is gonna die.
It's going to die.
Yeah, like it's gonna die or just be way watered down.
Right.
Like it's that's what kills me. Like I, for me, I'm the kind of person, if I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Right. Yeah.
And if other people who don't support that, don't like it, then I don't care, because I told you, hey, I gotta do that for you,
And you do it.
like, and I'll do it. It's just, it blows my mind, man. It blows my mind. I always get so frustrated when it comes to like politics, which is why I think a lot of people just don't care about politics.
Right. Yeah. No. And a lot of people.
It's too much
like I said,
stress.
So I think at one point several years ago, there were only maybe say 31% of the population registered to vote, and only
Yeah.
maybe 20 something percent of the people voted, if that. So that's, first of all, only 31% of the people that are registered voted. I'm not are registered to vote, and then only 20 something voted. That's saying a lot. I talked to many of my family members. They're actors, not they're teachers, they're doctors, they're lawyers. They don't vote.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't vote. It's not that they don't care, because they really do genuinely care about Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sick and tired of being told that people are going to do this and no one does it.
Yeah,
They
and
get
no one
disappointed
does it.
over and over. It's like a child. If you keep on disappointing that child, he's not going to care no more. He's not going to even care. He's not going to look for you to get that affection, that love, or what.
But see, that's why it's interesting to me. Like, I don't support everything like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does, AOC.
Right.
But man, when she first got elected and she went to that newcomers briefing or whatever it was, newcomers orientation,
Right.
and she was tweeting like, why is the former CEO of this company, this lobby group, telling us how to do our business in the Capitol? Like, what? Like, why are these things happening? Like, I appreciate AOC for her being vocal and just kind of telling you like, this is what's going on. That's here. Like, nobody does that. Nobody does that at pretty much at any state level. Like, I want to know regularly, like, what are you doing? What are you fighting for? What are you standing for? Because it goes back to the bullying thing. You're taking my tax money. You might as well be shaking me down in the schoolyard.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're taking my tax money, but you're not doing nothing for me, right?
Nothing.
I'm just here benefiting you. So that's why I always say, like, I think as a lot of these politicians as bullies, because they're shaking the taxpayer down, because they get that nice paycheck, they get a pension, they get health coverage,
and they're getting whatever money's been pocketed into their pockets.
Yeah, but then meanwhile,
we do not know, but we know they're getting something, because unfortunately, majority of our politicians here in Hawaii pocket money.
Yeah.
This is why we've been sold out.
Yeah, but it just kills me. Like, bro, there's aunties and uncles out here working 2 and 3 jobs, right, literally, because they need the money because it costs so much. And these politicians that could be passing economic policies that benefit the people,
doing nothing,
especially in the working class. They're just like, the politicians like, well, we had to kill that bill because so-and-so didn't like it. Oh, I mean, because, we couldn't get the verbiage down.
No,
okay.
right. No,
the legalese down.
Yeah, okay. the legalese on that is someone did not like it. They did not like the bill.
What I always try to tell people is government can do anything it wants to do.
Right.
Look what happened in Ukraine. Within minutes, the U.S. was sending billions of dollars in aid. But yet we couldn't send billions of dollars to like Flint, Michigan to get, dude, they have lead pipes. Kalihi, lead pipes. Like, we can't send money to do that. But we can,
No,
Because it's the interests of the people who are in charge.
our priorities are very wrong.
Kills
I
me.
mean, it's very wrong. I mean, now that Red Hill is supposed to be defused and decommissioned, how long is that going to take? That's the next question.
Yeah.
Is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 2? How long is it going to take them to do that? And even once they remove those tanks from that, they have to clean the whole area. Is the Navy, federal government going to clean that area? Because it's not going to be a livable area for quite some time.
I just want to apologize to the people for the cop sirens in the background, but this is Chinatown, and that is kind of the standard background noise.
Yeah.
Some people have birds and crickets. Chinatown has ambulance and police sirens.
And just to clarify more on that, it's actually been pretty silent with cop cars since we've been on for the last almost
I was
2 hours,
surprised because I was looking at your windows that are open, and I was like, I don't know if we should close them. It might get too hot, but so and because it's almost been like 2 hours.
Yeah. So before we go any further, I do want you guys to know, I want you to know that I am officially running for House District 28. It is a new House District here, which has parts of Eveleigh, a slither of downtown, parts of Lehigh going up this way, and all of Chinatown area. So my hardest issue is going to be getting into these buildings.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of buildings, so I am going to need all the help that I can get.
Yeah. And you're running under the Hawaiian Party.
Yes, I am.
Which is a new political party started because
people were tired.
People were tired of the status quo.
The Republicans went too far right, and the Democrats went too far left.
Yeah,
we're no longer centered. So it's about the people. The Hawaiian Party is not about a party. It's about bringing the people together and doing what's right for the people.
Yeah, no, that's good. The hardest part about running for office down here, though, is getting the money for the mailers. People don't understand, like, when you campaign, one of the biggest expenses is the mailers.
Yeah,
like mailing people.
For me, that's going to be my biggest expense, and I have to figure out how I'm going to come up with that money, because mailers in this area with all the towers I have, it's going to cost over $100,000.
You need a scandal. You need a scandal so you be in the news, so people will know.
And that's just per mailer, yeah?
Yeah.
Because even though it's one house, I'm not trying to hit one house, because in that apartment, there may be 3 different people living there.
Yeah.
So if it's just one person, he'll say it and he toss it out. But the other 2 people didn't see it, so nobody knows. So it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to run hard and strong.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out, inviting me over, and waiting for me to set everything up. I appreciate it. Ernest, I want to say good luck to you and peace out.